So the demons, they don't listen what you say. So young, messing up your life is sad. We play this game. Bad things we have to do to survive and get by. Forever with this lifestyle, only way out is to die. Seems like nothing ever works so many times. I didn't try. Only time I feel close to loving life is when I'm high. Only edge trying to think of good reasons you should live. I gotta keep pushing, but sometimes I wanna quit. Everything ain't what it seems, can be too sure what it is. It don't matter how it happened, I just wanna get away. Put me in a rocket on my lonely straight to space. Somebody clear my mind from all these thoughts, take me away. I pray you never listen, so the demons here won't stay. It don't matter how it happened, I just wanna get away. Put me in a rocket.
Why, hello, hello, hello. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining me on today's very first episode of Youth Speak Productions. This channel is designed to create a space where young people passionate about systemic reform can learn to leverage their experiences with systems into career pathways and other advocacy opportunities. If you were interested in those dope tracks that just played, please let me know, and I will contact my boy Ron, and he can share more of his wonderful pieces. He is an amazing, talented musician. I'm super excited that he was okay with me using this specific beat. I'd much love to you, my boy Ron, if you're hearing this. I am your host, Ida Samantha Moore. I go by Sam because Lord knows my mama gave me a hard name to pronounce. I absolutely love it when people can pronounce my name correctly. But for those of you who can't, Sam will be just fine. I went from being released from the Department of Juvenile Correction Center in Nampa, Idaho, to being a nationally recognized figure in authentic youth engagement, and I am a national trainer. I have been awarded the 2023 Spirit of Youth Award from the Coalition for Juvenile Justice and have been nationally recognized for my work with the institution and the work that I have done in Idaho. I was also voted in as the Family Engagement Subcommittee Chair by a group of my peers who were well-distinguished figures within their communities and networks. As a young person who has shattered glass ceilings, I want to be able to share the tools, resources, and opportunities that are out there. As a 26-year-old woman, I can no longer be a voice of youth who are going through the system. Sure, I can talk about my experiences from 10 years ago, but that doesn't do anything for the youth who are going through the problems of today, and I don't think that I would be able to voice the issues that young people are currently going through and do it justice. I want you all to know that you are powerful and you are meant for great things. We literally have young people who are changing the way their system operates from inside their prison cells. And I believe that all of you, if given the right tools and the right opportunities, can go so much farther than I ever can. Before I start with today's episode, Justice is Just Us, I wanted to take a moment to address a giant elephant of the room. As of October 20th, I was terminated from CJJ, and I plan to be doing my own consulting. If anything, I can honestly appreciate that being my own person and knowing that by being my own person, I know that there will always be a level of transparency between me and every single person that my business interacts with. On today's episode of Youth Speak Productions, our very first episode will be titled Justice is Just Us, and we will discuss what so many of us who have gone through systems know, that justice is just us. It's society making us a separate or different class of people with no guarantee of protections or restoration of rights even after a successful completion of sentences or probation or parole. It's kind of interesting that in so many states, convicted felons cannot vote and do not have many rights, but we all pay taxes and we are just denied that representation in Congress. The reality is that oftentimes just us is just us trying to survive in the world when a lot of young people are not given the proper coping skills or the tools to deal with stressful real-world situations. Don't get me wrong, accountability needs to happen, but there's a difference between holding somebody accountable and being cruel. I know this seems like a hot take, and it might seem like I'm enabling criminalistic behavior, but I want you to really think about somebody down the road. This situation, we'll call him Timmy. Timmy lives down the road, and he uses medications to treat underlying trauma and other issues. If he does not have his medications, he can become very reactive and very explosive. If you do not have the right amount of training, or if you have never had to work with young people who need specialized help in effective de-escalation tactics, you will not be prepared to deal with Timmy when he has a meltdown. And if he has a meltdown that results in his interaction with the justice system, and instead of getting the help he needs, he's locked in a detention center for however long it may be until his case is done. In a situation like this, Timmy going to detention isn't justice. It doesn't benefit Timmy. It doesn't benefit our society. If anything, it hurts Timmy and it hurts our community, because now Timmy, as somebody who can talk about the inequalities that exist within his community, right? Maybe he lives in a small town and he doesn't have access to med management, or maybe his mom just barely makes too much to apply for Medicaid or to qualify, and as a result, they have to pay out of pocket for medications. The reality is that regardless of what we want to say about the system or why as advocates we are changing the system, both sides are locked in a constant battle, trying to balance the safety of society along with the rights that the perpetrators of crimes have. I can honestly say that my experiences didn't make me a better person. It didn't make me want to be better. If anything, the cruel treatment I experienced while incarcerated from many, many different people made me want to be even more cruel. Even with classes and therapy and all these supposed professionals, I didn't really receive much help. In fact, many of my staff felt that I was intimidating, that I was hostile, and that I was aggressive. And in all honesty, I used to have like this 6-foot like radius of anger and hatred. Like if you came near me, you could feel it. And if you couldn't feel that, it was just this blank wall. And I felt like this empty slate that you could not read. And because you could not read me, I was not trustworthy. It wasn't until I looked past the pain that endured and transformed that pain into purpose. It wasn't until I had this moment where I realized I was just miserable. And it came to me that this idea that I had turned into a very, very important lesson, and it became a very important belief that I carry with me today. And I believe that people have two trajectories in their lives. Your life is not predestined. It's not fate. It's not your genetics. You can either choose to be the sum of your experiences, or you can choose to be something greater. But ultimately, you must make that choice. And I say this because it wasn't overnight. It wasn't some miraculous moment that occurred as I was reading. It wasn't some wonderful grand moment of enlightenment for me. I didn't just suddenly change my perspective as if I had reached some level of understanding with the universe and God as I understand them. The reality was that I was just tired of being angry and sad and lonely and hateful. And honestly, I was just tired of feeling just so hurt and so raw. It does something to you sitting in a cell knowing that you won't have outside contact with the world until you get out. And even then, I still had this bad attitude with me of being bitter and being angry, even after being released from incarceration. Honestly, I don't think I really started clicking in my head that life didn't have to suck like this until I was around 20. And by that time, before I got to be 20, right, a lot of my relationships, they were imploding. My personal life was a dumpster fire. I dropped out of college. I was struggling with a substance abuse disorder. I was homeless and sleeping in my car in weather above 100 and below freezing. There was times where I slept in sketchy places, and it wasn't even I have a serious substance abuse disorder, but it's if you can only afford, $300 in rent, I can guarantee you it's not going to be a really nice, safe spot in town that you're going to be able to afford, right? And despite all of these things, and despite my bad attitude and my absence, the tribe that I built came together for me. Even when I was angry and bitter, even when I was bumping my gums and talking a lot of smack, even when I snapped and was angry for no reason, right? I know they still came together for me. And instead of making me feel outside, right, like an outsider, They lifted me up. Despite my I know a lot of people don't have that, but I want you to know that it wasn't something that I had until just a few years ago. Before I continue, I want to invite all of you to be a part of this community of other young people wanting to learn how we can change the world. If the justice system will label me as another within my community and within my society, that's fine. I will make my own community and I will make my own society. One where if you've proven worthy and that you genuinely want to change, that you can be given every single opportunity, every single venue for that transformation to occur. Instead of saying, no, you're too dangerous based off of arbitrary factors. Life is literally what you make of it. My journey into advocacy was reignited when I joined the Idaho Juvenile Justice Commission as a gubernatorial member, meaning I was appointed by the governor. And this happened shortly after I was released from corrections. I think the first pro tip that I want to share with you is that whatever you're interested in, I can almost guarantee there's some kind of local board that oversees that, from wheat and dairy to water and environmental concerns to juvenile justice and foster care. There are so many different nonprofits that operate or different organizations that always are looking for volunteers, and through that you can get some amazing experience. For example, if you're a young person who is interested in creating systemic reform for immigration services, I would look up places that need help first, especially in your local community. I think a lot of you are going to have to be very honest with yourself with the skills that you bring to the table and what skills you need to develop. And some of you may think you don't even have any skills and that you may not bring a lot to the table. And that's okay, because guess what, sister? That was me. And I can't tell you how many times I felt like I was not good enough, that I did not know enough, and that I had to try 10 times as hard as everyone else to be smarter, to be better, to feel like I was worthy of the love and the affection and the attention that people were giving to me. And I tell all of you this because if you're super new into advocacy and all you know is that you just want to change the way the system operates because you know it isn't great, I want you to know that that's an amazing place to start. And if that's where you're starting at, guess what? I was there too. And it took a lot of work, but I promise you that if you put the work in, you will get the results that you want to see. I was first appointed by Governor Otter at around 19, shortly after I was released from the Department of Juvenile Corrections, and joined the Juvenile Justice State Advisory Group in Idaho, also known as the Idaho Juvenile Justice Advisory Group, or Commission. And through the SAG, or the State Advisory Group, I was able to make some meaningful and lasting change, and also provided me with many different skills, experiences, and opportunities that I could leverage into employment prospects. And I also want to say that, not every SAG is the same. My SAG is legit. Shout out to all my SAGies if you're listening. But the reality is that my SAG was very supportive. I know right now that there is a list of people that if I told them, hey, I need some help right now, I'm in crisis, does not matter what they're doing, if it's within their power, they will be there, day or night. Through sickness and health, through the rain, through the sun. I know it kind of sounds like marriage, but it's not like that. But they've just proven to me that they can always be reliable and they can always be trustworthy. And even when I bring my concerns to them, even if they're unfounded, they still treat them very, very seriously. And so as we continue this, I want you to ask yourself, what is my story and why am I passionate about X, Y, and Z? Even if you don't have personal lived experiences with these systems, doesn't mean that what you have to share or say is invalid. And I think that when we talk about complex issues, we need to remember to look at things from all angles, even if it means looking at the issues from a fresh set of eyes. Number 2, I think if you haven't learned about strategic sharing or other soft skills, I would look into them. Our next session is going to be about strategic sharing, and we can get into all the meat and potatoes of that. But there's important soft skills, communication-wise, that you need to learn, right? Professional-wise, like professionalism. What does it mean to be professional? What does a professional work environment look like? What is okay and what is not okay in a work type environment? Those are all important things to consider. Number 3, become informed on important matters within the work, whatever the work may be. right? So for those of you who, you are stuck working a lot, or you're in school and working, or, you just have something going on and you may not have 2 or 3 hours to just go and try and Google and find stuff. One of the best things you can do is you can go to Google Analytics. I love YouTube, and you can learn what Google Analytics is through there, and you can learn how to set it up for the specific things that you're interested in. But if you set it up and you have it set for like weekly or bi-weekly, it'll give you like some of the most important stories that are there, and it'll keep like a list of all of the stuff that you can just comb through, and whatever you're really interested about, or you find particularly interesting, you'll have all of that easily accessible. Lastly, I think about authentic youth engagement and how young people are experts and should be valued as such. You can find some really awesome resources at the Annie E. Casey Foundation and at laurelfordconsulting.com. I mention authentic youth engagement because there is no change that meaningfully affects us without all of us, right? And we need to remember that when we work with young people and we say that we authentically engage young people, what we say and think as juvenile justice professionals or as youth workers is different to the reality that young people may experience. And so I pose a very important question. What is authentic youth engagement, and how does it relate to Justice Is Just Us? Well, firstly, we can define authentic engagement as an active process that refers to involving young people in decision-making processes and activities that affect their lives and communities in a genuine, meaningful, and respectful way. It recognizes that young people have very unique perspectives, experiences, and insights that can contribute to better decision-making and outcomes. After all, who better knows the way that a young mind operates than a young person? Authentic youth engagement goes beyond tokenism, which is where young people are included merely for appearance's sake, and instead involves them in a substantive and impactful manner. This means listening to young people, even when things they share directly oppose your own beliefs, ideas, or thoughts. And it means making every intentional effort to follow through with the work, even when you disagree. This also means finding ways to meaningfully engage your youth. Perhaps Susie is shy and has a hard time with public speaking and would instead prefer to help with research. By compromising and allowing Susie to work in the areas of her greatest strength and comfort, the youth perspective can be shifted throughout the project and therefore better enhance the quality of the results. Any and all type of reform should keep a youth-centered approach because the issues that a 16-year-old woman have are drastically different than a 16-year-old man. And in some states, children as young as 10 can be put into youth prisons. The issues that cause each and every one of the people described above to be involved with the law can vary greatly. The road to rehabilitation can also be very different based on many factors, such as cultural traditions, race, gender identity, sexual orientation, trauma history, and familial background. All of these things factor differently into how professionals may interact with young people and affect their rehabilitative journeys. Justice system and other professionals that work with youth highly benefit by looking at how the system operates now versus how we would like it to operate and figure out how we can make that happen with what we got. And this means looking to youth and families and community organizations as partners instead of opposition. Justice Is Just Us is a call to action. Young people across the country and working professionals are welcome and encouraged to join our community. And the reason for that is because we can't make change without including all of us. And that even means people who are willing to label us as others. And I know for a lot of you, that may be something hard to hear. Like, I get it. I remember there was this one staff that I was incarcerated with. And I don't want to really get to the specifics of it because even though this person did some bad things, and like I am not opposed to karma messing with some old lady, it does not change the fact that like she deserves privacy. And even though she showed me disrespect, and even though she put me through a lot of really, really negative experiences while I was incarcerated and refused to acknowledge that, it doesn't change the fact that I don't feel like that. I feel like she shouldn't be harassed or her name shouldn't be dragged in the mud any more than it has to be. Well, I don't mean that it has to be, but I just don't feel like it's important for all of the other details that get into this. But she was in a position of power and authority over me. She would always make very, very questionable statements towards me to the point that my mentor got involved and she was removed from my case. Like she was not allowed to work with me anymore. She got in a lot of trouble, right? Not my mentor, the staff at the correctional facility I was at. Whenever I talk about systemic reform and I talk about those experiences, I think about her and I can just envision every single hair on her head. I can envision the wrinkles on her face, her freckles, her eyes just staring at me. Like I can just see it, and I'm filled with hate and I'm filled with rage because of the way that she made me, she treated me. But it doesn't change the fact that change cannot happen without involving her, right? Because a relationship is a two-way street. If you don't want to fix that relationship and try and mend it, then there's only so much you can do. And like I share that story because there's a lot of times where in this work, there's going to be small circles. There's going to be people that you fundamentally don't like or you just disagree with. Some people you may say are untrustworthy or think are untrustworthy. And the reality is that sometimes in order to do really great work, we have to remember to let go of some of the small things that are insignificant. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to stand up for what you feel is right. I wanted to let all of you guys know that in addition to having this channel and the podcast and music and all of that, I plan to have a Discord and Patreon account set up for those that would like to have exclusive access to behind the scenes, masterclasses, workshops, and other content, or would like to support this channel and the work that we'd like to do. For those of you still listening, or maybe you find this super fascinating, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment. I would really love to hear from you. As a podcast productions, I plan to have a digital anthology for purchase within the year where funds will be set aside, and I plan to have them housed with a nonprofit and then later when young people release from the systems that they are with, they can apply for the scholarship and use money that they receive for whatever kind of opportunity they'd like to pursue. Maybe it's higher education. Maybe they need it to pay for a house. Maybe they really need a car. All of those things are going to be really life-changing events. And if you guys want to be a part of that, please let me know. I'll be sharing the Google form so you guys can provide your contact information and share a story. I'll provide more details on that as soon as I kind of get stuff figured out, because I don't want to be like, oh, here's this amazing plan, and then it just kind of falls through. And as we wrap up today's show, I just want to walk through an action plan that I created for all of you, so that way you have a general idea of where to start and what comes next, right? There should be a link popping up on the screen. If not, then go down in the description and you guys can have a view-only version. You'll have to copy, make a file, but after that, you'll be able to edit it on your own. And I'll leave a Google document and a Word document on the off chance that you can't access either or. So here you can fill out the name, the date. I'll leave my business email here, so that way if you guys want a little bit more help or kind of some ideas of where to start, I could help you guys out in my free time. So first step, we're going to talk about the self-assessment. So we're going to talk about what you are passionate about. You're going to identify your passion. Think of something that you could talk about for hours without end, or something that you could sit down and watch videos on. For me personally, because of my experience with the justice system and the fact that I was tried as an adult and unable to receive any kind of monies for juveniles 18 or younger, and I specifically use that word because legally that's what the technical jargon is, right? I was not able to use any of these monies or access them or anything like that. So a lot of my reentry journey after corrections was very, very different than like literally, I would say 97%, maybe 93% of the young people that go through the Department of Juvenile Corrections in the state of Idaho. And so because of those experiences, I'm really interested in rebuilding independent living programs to create a statewide standard while we utilize best practice to develop worksheets that can cover a wide variety of topics while being 100% free, right? And I'll let you guys provide some time for you guys to kind of think about the stuff that you're passionate about. It doesn't have to be this detailed. Maybe what you're passionate about is animal rights, or maybe you're really worried about global warming. Maybe something that you find super, super duper fascinating is C-SPAN and watching people testify in front of Congress, right? Everybody has diverse likes and dislikes. But it's important that if you go into advocacy and you want to make this a career path, it should be something that you're really interested about. And I always kind of think about it as like, think about the hill that you are willing to die for, right? Or that you're willing to die on, however the saying goes. And when you figure what that hill that you're ready to die on is, you'll know where you can start your journey. And maybe for some of you, it's going to be personal. And you're going to need a lot more help being able to cultivate that story and talk about those experiences. And again, that is okay. I want to take a moment just to like be mindful of the fact that for so many of us, we live in a day and age and in a communities where we're not safe, where by showing emotions, we are weak. And because we are viewed as weak, we are targeted and we become victims of violence, right? And it's important to understand and recognize that that's where some people really are in the world. And that's the experiences that they bring to the table. With that being said, it's super, super duper important to always make sure that we keep these things in mind, right? And we always let people know that it's okay to feel the way that you are feeling, right? You may not be in control of what other people do to you, but you are 1000% in control of how you respond and what you do to others. We're going to go to skills and strengths. You're going to list your skills and the strengths that can be valuable in advocacy work. Perhaps you're good at public speaking or research or writing. Maybe you're very sociable and networking is very easy for you. For me personally, I am really good at relationship building, and I'm really good at solving and identifying problems and finding creative solutions to the issues that are there. For some of you, you may have a hard time identifying skills and strengths that you bring to the table. And I get it. I've been there, done that. But I'm telling you, even if you think you're the worst person in the world, even if you think you're a bum, even if you think that you have no skills or no strengths, you bring something valuable to the table. You bring your presence. You bring your story. You bring your experiences. And remember that because you bring these things, you are powerful beyond measure. We're going to go to areas to improve. What skill or knowledge do you need to develop to be a more effective advocate? For me, again, going back to the independent living programs, I want to do research on what independent living programs are to determine what they have, what I like, what I don't like, and how I think we could improve them. Do they really need to be improved? Once we kind of have these things figured out, we're ready to go to step 2, which is setting clear goals. And for some of you, you may not know what SMART goals are, but SMART is an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, right? And ensuring that your goal meets all of these things will make it a lot easier all of these requirements will make it a lot easier for you to determine how successful your venture is. Right? So for the short-term goal, for 3 to 6 months, I am going to commit to do research and learn on how many independent living programs are operating within our state, how they operate, how they teach classes, keeping in mind how lessons are made, who makes the lessons, and how friendly each lesson is. To do this, I'm going to collect the information on independent living programs that my Juvenile Justice State Advisory Group or the state of Idaho contracts with. And we can talk about their programming and how their programming works, where they get their curriculum from, how all of this stuff works together, right? And then I'm going to have a medium-term goal, right? And that means in 6 to 12 months from now, I am going to commit to look through all of my research. I'm going to find the top 5 independent living programs based off of what I said earlier. And then I'm going to list the things that I don't like, I do like, and what I think can be improved on. And we're going to make sure that when we do this step, that we are objective, we're impartial, and when we go through and we look at this research, we have something to measure the data metrics, right? For a long-term goal, so in 1 year from now, I plan to be looking at who's in my network, who would be willing to help, who can contribute to this work, what organizations, institutions, or groups would be natural allies for my cause, right? So for me, in this specific case, we have almost every state has a Juvenile Justice State Advisory Group, and each state, through your SAG, or through the SAG, you can make some really, really amazing, substantial, and significant change, right? Through our current SAG in the state of Idaho, we have a few people who are really, really big into reintegration and enhancing reintegration practices. So I automatically know I can talk to Tommy, I can talk to Susie, I can talk to Johnny, you know. These aren't actually the names of members, it's just what I use just to make sure people are anonymous still, okay, right? Not everybody appreciates being named on YouTube, right? And all of these people can come together and help me make this idea that I have a reality, right? So we're going to get to the next phase, and I'm going to stop at step 3, so that way all of you guys have some time to process this, right? And to kind of go through and really just take the time to really think all of this through, right? We're going to talk about skill development, and we're going to talk about skill building opportunities. You're going to want to identify resources and opportunities to develop the skills needed for the specific advocacy work you want to do, right? So if you want to be a motivational speaker, you should probably have really good public speaking skills. You should probably work on like really developing a really good first impression, right? You may want to practice writing speeches and talking about experiences, so that way when you are offered opportunities, you can seize the moment and capitalize on all of the work that you have already put in before you even have a fish dangling on the fishing hook, right? So for me, I'm going to research and discover opportunities to meet with other reentry specialists, and I'm going to talk to them. And it doesn't matter if it's Department of Health and Welfare, it doesn't matter if it's Foster Care Transition Service, it doesn't matter if it's Juvenile Justice Transition Services, whether from its juvenile detention or juvenile correction, right? The more people that you can talk to that are experts in their field, the more perspective you can get, the more you can learn. Because I can promise you that Joe Schmo, that's an employee at the Department of Health and Welfare, will not know every single resource that exists in this area or this county or even in the state, right? And for that reason, we need to make sure we include as many people as possible, that we make this a collaborative and open space for people to participate and to feel safe participating in. With that being said, we are at the end of today's show, and if you really enjoyed today's content and you'd like to hear more, please let me know your thoughts, your opinions. I would really love to hear your feedback. Additionally, again, I would love to see your guys' action plans and really help you guys develop it and connect you guys with other resources so that way you can start really building up from where you want to go. Because I'm a firm believer that, like, if you're given the right tools and the right opportunities, and you're given just the right amount of help, that you can be anywhere where you want to be. And I say that because 10 years ago, if you would have told me, Aide, life is going to suck for 3 or 4 years, it's going to be really, really sucky. You're going to be homeless. You're going to be sleeping in your car. You're going to have your dog and your mama. It's going to be the blistering heat in the winter. And it's like, life is just going to suck. You're going to have bad credit. You're going to make bad decisions with your money. You're going to help all the wrong people, right? But then in that 5th year, your life is going to change and it's going to be freaking awesome. And you're going to get this job working with people, well, most people that you enjoy working with, right? And like, if you had told me that, or if you had even told me 7 years ago, like, Sam, you're going to meet this amazing man who's going to treat you well, who's going to love you and your daughter, our daughter, because, he's the father of my child, that he's going to love the daughter that you both made so much and so fiercely. Like, I would have said, you're crazy, man, because fairy tale endings like that, they don't work for me. And I'm not saying my life is a dream come true and it's amazing and there's no hardships or there's no struggles, because there's tons of them. It happens all the time. But I'm just saying that, like, if I didn't take that leap of faith and jump every single time there was an opportunity to jump, I would not be here. And I probably wouldn't have my daughter, who I love to pieces. Right? I probably wouldn't be in an amazing relationship with somebody who I truly honor and value and cherish to the bottom of my heart. I mean, I won't say that I'm in love with him, but I mean, I could definitely see myself spending the rest of my life with him. I mean, maybe that is what being in love is. But I'm just saying that, like, by taking those chances, by taking those safe risks, or I mean, relative safe risks, you're benefiting. Right? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And please, 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 if you guys know of any young people that are interested in learning tips, tricks, or getting the inside scoop of what it's like to work in advocacy, please let me know, because I would definitely love to help you guys build as many skills as possible and start hitting the ground running when you're ready to start. Thank you guys so much, and I hope to hear from you soon.